Hello and welcome back to the Charles Cole for Assembly Zoom Room Conversations. I'm your media host, Mark McIntyre. Today we continue the conversation between Charles and Mr. George Miller, publisher of the Ventura Citizens Journal. And in this segment, the conversation shifts over to the disastrous Ventura County anti-land development creature known as SOAR, created by Steve Bennett, proving once again that Steve Bennett should never, ever be elected to the California Assembly. Let's join the conversation in progress, shall we?
I'd like to hear your perception of Steve Bennett as a supervisor and as a person.
Oh, and this may be publicized. Okay.
We can cut this out if you don't want it publicized, but...
Yeah, well, go ahead. Just do it. Steve is obviously a strong progressive, and he goes along completely with the UN Agenda 21 sustainability agenda. So he says that, I can't remember his exact words, that climate change is basically an extinction event. He believes that's the most serious problem in the world right now. I don't, and as a former engineer, I really don't see any justification for that position in terms of evidence, models that don't work, and everything else. Yet our entire county government is being realigned to recognize this as a clear and present danger, which is taking away from other priorities. Now, it's not to say I'm a conservationist, by the way, but I'm a pre-climate change conservationist. I believe in getting pollutants out of the air and things like that. I don't believe the whole agenda that they're selling. But that has caused them to endorse a host of policies that affect the oil industry, agriculture, land use.
Yeah.
Very, very adversely, to the point where they've actually shrunken the economy in the county without commensurate benefits. To that, I object strenuously. And all of his actions have been consistent with that. He is a mortal enemy of the oil industry, which is a very responsible industry in this county, having had only one serious incident in half a century. He is also an advocate of land use restrictions, which have hurt a lot of people in the agricultural industry, including
through the SOAR program, right?
Through the SOAR, right. Now, he's the co-author of SOAR, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. And the other co-author is Richard Francis, an Oxnard attorney. I once had a conversation with Richard after a very good speech he made at the Oxnard City Council. I spoke to him by telephone the next day. I said, are you aware that that SOAR actually violates the Fifth Amendment in takings clause of not giving proper compensation to landowners? He said, yes. And he laughed when he said it.
I brought that up too.
I was stunned, guys, when I heard that.
Wow. So he admitted that his own initiative was a violation of the Fifth Amendment?
That was my interpretation. He'll probably deny it now, but I was shocked. I wrote it down at the time.
Wow.
It was on a phone conversation. I don't record phone conversation. But yeah, so I have no objection to the idea of the restrictions, provided that just compensation was given, but it was never given. So forever that land is restricted. Now they pride themselves on having recently freed up some of the land for development for things like worker housing and food processing. Well, Ventura County has 2,200 square miles. Do you know how much land they freed up for that?
I would guess like maybe 6.
12 acres.
Oh, geez, that's not even 6. That's nothing.
I didn't know about the 12 acres until I spoke to someone from CoLab recently, Council on Labor and Agriculture, and they told me about that. I wasn't even aware. A lot of people thought it had been freed up, but it hasn't. If anything, it's gotten worse, because now they've also put another layer of restriction on with the so-called wildlife corridor. And the theory of the wildlife corridor is that any and all development in wildlands would impede the natural migration of animals and movement back and forth, which would shorten their lifespans and fun or whatever. I have a friend that has a agriculturally zoned property right on the intersection of 2 major roads, a major highway and a major secondary road. And that person was told that they could not put lights out at night because that would scare the animals away, but they couldn't even build fences. And the highway already forms a natural barrier to animal migration. It just shows how stupid some of these rules are.
Yeah.
That's what we've got, so we have to live with.
George.
Another question. SOAR was a voter initiative. It was put together by different committees of conservation-minded people and left-wing organizations that say we like to keep the look and feel of a rural county, and we can do that by putting restrictions on development outside of the cities, and we want to restrict all major development to the cities themselves, which comes directly out of the United Nations guidelines, by the way. They want to make most of the country a wildland and only have limited areas of what we call stack and pack, fairly dense housing, walkable, downplaying the use of cars, downplaying the eating of meat and other things, all which would supposedly make the environment more sustainable. That is his modus operandi. He follows it to the letter. He's very faithful. He doesn't lie about it. He doesn't deceive people. He just does it. I have to give him credit for his honesty.
That is fair. Yeah, you do. You do kind of have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, that's very true, right? So that affects quite a few decisions that he's made.